Alrighty then, it's time for a Warwick game, and this one is using the newly added Bloodrazor. Let's take one, and a lot of people are having mixed results with it so far, because let's take one, Sated Devourer is obviously better on some champions than the Bloodrazor is. On some champions like Master Yi, you'd probably want Sated Devourer, so it's kind of meh on him. So I think Riot even said they're thinking about buffing him because Bloodrazor is such a downgrade than Sated Devourer it was for him. But on some champions like Warwick, it's definitely an improvement. Anyways, I'm taking the standard build with Warwick. Movement speed quints, attack speed red, armor yellow, magic resistance blues, 18, 12, 0 masteries, although you can be a little bit more liberal with your masteries on him. Anyhow, I want to point out a couple things here. One, my team, we didn't pick our composition on purpose. Right now we're like Team Halloween. We got a vampire, we got a vampire hunter, we got a mermaid, a lamia, and a werewolf. And that was completely by accident. But right now we're Team Twilight, we're Team Halloween, we're Team Disney or some shit like that. Anyways, and the second thing is it's Cinco de Mayo, so yeah, my team is kind of plastered. Keep that in mind. We're not at 100%. In fact, a couple of them right after this game, we still kept playing while the others went and passed out somewhere else because everyone was kind of fucked up. Anyways, Warwick with the Bloodrazor is going to be making like a grand return because honestly, he still kind of suffers from the Warwick issues of leaving your teammates sort of in the dust, right? You can't really help out your teammates until you get level 6, and you can only occasionally gank someone who's really out of the position. And Bloodrazor, it does help him kill ganks, and then with his ultimate, it does do a huge chunk of damage very, very quickly. But at the same time, Warwick is just kind of a very one-dimensional champion. Use your ultimate, use it properly, don't try to initiate just to initiate, you gotta be very opportunistic with it. And it's just a little bit, it's kind of narrows down his reasons to pick him. And technically, he can still snowball and carry in solo queue games, but at the same time, he could also snowball negatively because he might not be able to help his teammates if they're losing severely. So, yeah. He's still really strong when it comes to his quote-unquote supportive qualities. In this game, you're actually going to see them come into play. I'm going to be using my W, and it's going to ramp up the attack speed of my team tremendously, and we're going to shit on towers. That's about it, pretty much. Most of the times, I'm waiting around just for a chance for one of the enemy to get a little bit out of position, so I can ult him immediately. Like right here, I'm luring the Nautilus closer to me because Vladimir is going to teleport through, so you can easily kill him. I thought LeBlanc was just going to run away, but she seems to be hanging around. So as soon as she gets close enough to me, I ult her immediately. I ignore Nautilus, so my Vladimir can plaster her with all that blood aids and eventually kill her. So I didn't think we were going to get LeBlanc, but she got too close, and so I was able to just snare her and just murder her quickly, or suppress her, so to speak. And of course, one of Warwick's better attributes is he can just take down, objectives really quickly without really losing too much health or anything. He's a grinder kind of champion. If you're toe to toe with anything, you'll just melt it down very quickly. And as you can see, Bloodrazor speeds up his ability to kill single targets tremendously, at least faster. I know Sated Devourer eventually did that too, but the key thing to keep in mind with Bloodrazor is that it's immediate. Sated Devourer had the weakness that you had to stack it up and then eventually evolve it, right? You could go for some kills, you could farm non-stop to obtain it, or you can go for objectives. Either way, it would stay, regardless of how you stack it up, it was still slow. Bloodrazor, as soon as you get it, it gives you immediate value. And while its value isn't that great early against some champions, and it might never actually be that valuable against certain compositions, it's still nothing to scoff at. The important thing to keep in mind with Bloodrazor is that its value increases over time as champions get tankier and you need to chunk them down a little bit faster and harder. So it's kind of a perfect item for attack speed reliant champions, although champions who want more brunt behind their attacks, like Master Yi and Tryndamere, might not actually really benefit too much from the Bloodrazor, except against certain compositions, like if they had 2 tanks or 3 tanks, or just generally a tanky team, right? So keep that in mind. You're going to have to get used to when you're playing AD champions or auto-attacking champions, you're going to have to get used to alternating between Warrior and Bloodrazor according to who your opponents are. So don't just try to build Bloodrazor every game unless you're someone like Warwick, alright? Keep that in mind in the future. It was like the most commonly asked question, Stonewall, do I need to be building Bloodrazor from now on, or just stick to Warrior now? If you're Nocturne, like Nocturne was the one most brought up, if you're Nocturne and you're fighting pure tanks, Bloodrazor, probably. If you're Nocturne and you're going to go assassinating squishies and whatnot, then obviously pick up a warrior. Now in this game I'm going Blade of the Ruined King, but it's mostly for experimenting. In another game, and then I get another chance, I'm going to be trying to build a Wit's End and eventually a Rage Blade just to try it all out. I'm willing to experiment mostly because Warwick, while he isn't one of my favorite champions, he tends to be fun to play because after you get through a certain, early game hurdles, it's kind of badass where no one can really fuck you because you just tear them to shreds and you sustain yourselves, and a lot of enemies still try to fight you and you just maul their faces in. So with Bloodrazor, that makes you able to do that against a lot of champions. And one of the things that a Bloodrazor that a lot of people haven't really talked about is that it helps you keep up. Bloodrazor, well, mostly on Warwick, Bloodrazor is a huge gap closer, so to speak, for itemization. It gives you a lot of value quickly, or it gives you value quite early, and it gets better as the game goes on, like I mentioned that earlier. And that means if your opponents are quite ahead of you, they're going to become a little bit weaker to you or to your item. It's sort of like Trundle. Like Trundle, if your team opponents get tankier and tankier, even if you're behind, they're just going to be giving you more resources. So technically, they're helping you out a little bit. They're helping you catch up, or it's not as bad as it could be. And that's what I think about the Bloodrazor. Like, no matter how strong my opponents might be health-wise or tank-wise, the Bloodrazor will, at the very least, help me keep up a little bit with them. So even if I got completely fucked up in this game, I could theoretically focus on one champion, the Braum or the Nautilus, and at least wipe their asses out. So either way, you can see me and my teammates are just uncoordinated as hell. I was flashing over to grab the enemy Nidalee, and at the same time Vayne shot her back, and in this case I initiated against the LeBlanc and my teammates were retreating, and then they would come back forward, and then we're just running around scattered. It's Cinco de Mayo, okay? You gotta forgive us. It's Cinco de Mayo. You cannot celebrate Cinco de Mayo without cerveza and lemon and all tortilla chips, okay? You can't. I mean, we're all doing this in our probably prospective homes, so it's just nobody's in the right state of mind. Still though, when it comes to Bloodrazor, I definitely prefer it over Sated Devourer, mostly because Sated Devourer encouraged a lot of gameplay that wasn't really healthy for a team. Bloodrazor, again, is going to be sharing its place with Runic Echoes and a Warrior, in that some champions could use both of them, and it will be dependent on your matchup. And that, in my opinion, is far healthier rather than just having a static build and thus kind of sort of pigeonholing certain champions to play in a certain playstyle very, very vehemently. Now, I'm going to have to point out this little part here. Keep in mind, we were super disorganized, and this is obviously not what you really want to do as Warwick. I go in against Jhin because I thought I'd be able to kill him quickly enough, but it just doesn't seem to have enough damage, and they quickly tear me to shreds. I feel if I had a better item, maybe like the Rage Blade as my second item, or if a Wit's End, maybe I could have done a little bit more damage. But Blade of the Ruined King was probably overkill, as it doesn't really help me kill out squishies. That's one thing I learned so far. Bloodrazor, with Bloodrazor, you probably don't want to go for Blade of the Ruined King immediately, or use Blade of the Ruined King and Bloodrazor to go for squishy champions. You probably need some actual more oomph behind your scratches rather than percentage shred, right? Either way, though, Warwick, again, as I said, he probably won't be leaving the position he was in before. Warwick is kind of he's an outdated champion. His best qualities are that he can suppress a person, and then his W gives you incredible amounts of value, attack speed value, and you can use that to push or just help an attack speed reliant team composition excel. And as you can see in this game, we use my W to push a lot, but his weakness, of course, that he really doesn't have any early game pressure, that he kind of is rather item reliant, and he's very prone to being kited when his ultimate is down, etc., kind of keeps him down. Like, he's just too he's not very versatile for a champion. In solo queue, though, that doesn't really matter, and a good Warwick can completely melt the enemy team. Although, again, even a good Warwick can suffer from the fact that if his teammates aren't very careful early game, then they're just gonna lose completely, right? They're gonna lose before Warwick can become an impactful champion. And of course, also Warwick works very well with ganking squads. You know, he level 6. Once he reaches level 6, you can gank for your LeBlanc, and then she blows up the target, and they just keep coming back every time your ultimate's off cooldown. So he's very snowbally for a whole team. So just kind of pick him appropriately, and of course he's a very easy champion to learn, and his power is pretty easy to understand. So if you're a newer player and you want a champion that can snowball for in solo queue and definitely carry in certain situations, then of course Warwick is definitely perfect. Bloodrazor didn't like is definitely an upgrade for Warwick, but not enough to make him super uber competitive or broken, as far as I can tell. Right? It's again, it is definitely a buff, definitely a strength, but I don't think it's enough to make up for his other deficiencies. I definitely will pick him because I always try to pick him if the opportunity is there, and because he can't just utterly stomp in certain situations. But again, just sort of learn to read the situations at hand and learn to read the team compositions and see if it's appropriate to pick him with that item or not. And do that for every other champion from then on to now. Hooray for Warwick and Bloodrazor. This channel is supported by my sponsors, Crunchyroll and Loot Crate. Check out the description below for links to the websites. Signing up for any trials, including Crunchyroll's free anime trial, greatly supports my channel. Also remember to give the video a like to support the channel and subscribe if you haven't yet.